President Taylor, members of the Board of Trustees, distinguished faculty, parents, alumni, friends, fellow honorees, members of the class of 2008, good morning. I want to begin by thanking you for the invitation to be here and for this very meaningful honorary degree. I'm sure I speak for my fellow honorees in saying how grateful we are to be a part of this remarkable historical college. As the class of 2008 could testify, a degree is indeed a precious thing, satisfying to work hard for and earn. But it's a special delight to receive one without having to attend a single class. To the parents who are here, let me say that I have 3 daughters who graduated from college, and if you're like me, your emotions this morning are a bit mixed. You feel both incredibly proud and a little bit sad and excited that this day has finally come, and yet astonished at how short the interval is between diapers and diplomas. To the alumni, this is a day that brings back memories of our own college years, which in my case occurred roughly halfway between the invention of the handheld BlackBerry and the discovery of fire. But today, above all, is a day to honor and congratulate the class of 2008. For each of you, this is a moment for celebration, for looking back and admitting that all the studying and cramming before tests was really worth it. In future years, you will recall your commencement and this date with fondness. And even as you realize that today is when you first began to forget everything that you learned in college. But as the names of dead European kings begin to fade, the full value of your time here at Knox will become even more evident. For although you have learned much about the world, you have learned even more about yourselves. This matters because beginning tomorrow, you will no longer have professors to tell you how you're doing and where you stand. You will rely instead on an inner compass, and whether that compass is true will determine whether you are blown about by every breeze or able to chart a course that reflects the full measure of your talents and the highest calling of your hearts. This morning, I don't intend to place the weight of the world upon your shoulders, for that will always be your parents' job. But I do have a few observations to make about Knox College and about the choices you will face as you begin a new and exciting chapter in your lives. As most of you all have grown up with, you know that Galesburg was a witness to a historic debate between Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas, and the time was 150 years ago, and the focus was slavery. Mr. Douglas said he didn't care whether slavery continued or not. The important thing was national unity, and he said we should be practical and compromise. Mr. Lincoln admitted that the existence of slavery did indeed create practical problems, and he insisted that the nature of slavery should not be in doubt. Slavery was an abomination. As for national unity, Lincoln didn't believe America could remain united around a lie. He refused to accept the argument that slavery reflected God's will or the natural order of things. He drew a clear distinction between right and wrong. From our vantage point, many years later, the evil of slavery seems obvious, but at the time, those who denied that truth were powerful enough to break America in half. Of course, this was not the 19th century only contentious issue. In 1840, Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton met while attending an anti-slavery convention in London. And because of their gender, they were not allowed to actually participate in the conference, but they were still inspired to organize a gathering of their own. The women of Galesburg also made history by organizing themselves to argue for and support the abolitionist movement. At Seneca Falls, women too argued in support of human dignity and against what many considered to be God's will and the natural order of things. They too had the courage to draw a clear distinction between right and wrong. And here again, from our vantage point, many years later, discrimination against women seems obviously unfair, and yet the principles articulated at Seneca Falls and at Galesburg are still in the process of being implemented. It was not until this election campaign that we had a truly serious woman candidate for President of the United States.